Candidates, this is your opportunity to ask one candidate a question. We will stick to the 1.5 minute time rule. And please, when you're asking your question, state your name. And then when the candidate is answering the question, again, please state your name. If we can start down here with Mr. Howell and then move down toward the end of the table.
Thank you.
Before we start, if anybody else has any questions from the audience, please feel free. Raise your hand. Go ahead, Mr. Howell.
Okay, great. If I understand the way the protocol works here, I'm going to direct one of the candidates, and I'll make this one easy. Mayor Winger, you're running on a platform to save the lagoon, and I can agree with you. Everyone here would love to save the lagoon, but I'd like to know, for my own curiosity, what have you done in the last 4 years to save the lagoon? Thank you.
I don't know that we can do it in 2 minutes, quite frankly. It's not what I did, it's what Council did. And I'm only one of Council. But we have a strong fertilizer ordinance. We were one of the first in this part of the world that did it. We have the step system, and we are dedicated to get all septic tanks off over time. I had to intervene with the governor. The governor's chief of staff came back to me, and we were able to get a change in legislation. Today we talked about the stormwater utility. We know the second biggest cause that we have is runoff, or if one of the big two causes, I think I'll correct that. And we are looking at a stormwater utility. It is a fee and it is a tax. I think it's needed. I've been to 800 homes. I have had nobody that is not for paying $4 or $5. You know, we put in a biomass system so that we're taking the solids that will be operational in April. Instead of putting in landfill, we're going to sell the solids out of the plant for mulch. 5 or 6 years ago, we put in the deep injection well. We're one of the few governments that takes the brine out of the reverse osmosis. We're putting 2 more reverse osmosis skids in, and the brine goes down the deep injection wells, as well as any reuse water. So, you know, and we of course joined the Indian River Coalition. I am on the board of the 3 cities to do that because our county did not want to be part of the 3 government agencies in the other 4 counties. So I could go on. I've got 4 or 5 more.
Mrs. Moss, she will be able to ask a question.
Laura Moss, my question is for Ms. Graves, and that is with regard to the tax increase, the proposed one, the initial one. It's actually in 2 parts, as I didn't really understand why it was 30%. Why was initially a 30% increase proposed, number 1, and number 2, why did you vote for it, in favor of it at that time?
Why are you talking about during the budget hearings or the actual budget during the workshop? Okay, during the workshop, we asked the city manager, asked the department heads, if you were to look at your department based on all of the needs that you see from deferred maintenance to future projects to long-range planning, what would that look like? And that was the number that we came back with, which was 30%. And I think it was a really important exercise for us to see as a city how much it would cost to do some of these things. A lot of times we tell you, we're gonna take this away, we're gonna take this away, we're gonna take this away. But one of the biggest disconnects that we've had between the city of Vero Beach and our residents is the cost of services. And this was a chance to see if these are the services that we want, this is how much it will cost. We got feedback that said, okay, we want some, but not all. And we reduced over $500,000 from that initial budget just in paving alone. We also pulled out some other positions, including a part-time parking enforcement officer, which was really wanted over on the beach to help with the expanded business and tourism over there. But I wanted it to see an exercise of if we were to bring deferred maintenance up to date, what the cost of that would be.
All right, this is Dick Winger for Harry Howell. I seem to hear a refrain about limited government, and I'm going to ask you a specific question. I believe in good zoning and to some degree strict zoning, things like building height limits. I don't believe in short-term rentals. I believe that the city of Vero Beach is special because we regulate how buildings are built, what they look like, how tall they are, and so on. Do you believe in strict zoning, and do you believe in preventing short-term rental?
Thank you, Mayor Winger. Harry Howe, not sure if that was one question or three. I am for small government. I have volunteered my time to the county and to the city for almost 10 years now, starting with the what was I on? Emergency Services District Advisory Committee for the county. I was chairman. I was on the Planning and Zoning Board. I'm now chairman of the Code Enforcement Board. That's all volunteer time. I think groups like that help to keep government small. The insinuation that I was ever for short-term rentals, which by the way I'm not, it's on the record, can go back to the Planning and Zoning meeting that was basically the city was versus John and Tracy Carroll. I'm on the record, was not for it then. Just a few weeks back, we had another citizen who lives in Castaway Cove who had a short-term rental, and I was the one, as chairman, who said, this guy is in violation and we need to fine him $500. So I'm not sure where you're getting your information, Mr. Winger, but I hope that answered your question.
Well, how about no?
Mr. Winger, I think he answered the question. We're not going to have a debate.
Yeah, in 30 words or less, I would like to know, other than increase taxes and block the sale of the electric, what was your most significant accomplishment?
We've re-engineered the city and put best management practices in. I'll take only one area. In the area of obligations we have for things like pension, we have changed from the defined benefit to defined contribution. Now, we still have a $38 million hole. It'll take us 13 years to fill it. But a few years ago, it was $9 million and went up to $38 million, and we fixed that. We've gone to lose it or use it on vacation and sick pay. Those are significant numbers. And so what we've done is we've gone through the city and we've looked at things that needed to be fixed that the councils of 2009, 2010, and 2011 kicked the can down the road on, and we fixed them for the future so the public doesn't get deeper in debt.
Okay, Amelia Grace, my question is for Mr. Howe. Mr. Howe, how would you specifically get the city of Vero Beach out of our FMPA contract obligations to sell our system to FPL?
Thank you, Councilwoman Graves. Harry Howe here again. It's unfortunate that we've come to the point where it's going to take a lot more work than it could have taken just a few years ago. I truly believe we could have been out of this contract if the $52 million that was on the table wasn't tabled itself. It may very well be the situation today that this all has to be done legislatively. And if you think it can't be done legislatively, just take a look at North Carolina, Duke Energy. They recently had a an eerily similar deal to what we have, to what's their FMPA. It's not, the acronym is not FMPA, but whatever it is, they did work out a deal legislatively. The unfortunate thing is, both parties have to have a contract that they've agreed upon. And the city has proven, and they've proven to Neighbor Shores recently, that they don't want to agree on a contract. But I think to answer your question more specifically, Mrs. Graves, I believe it's probably going to come down to a legislative action at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll move on to a brief number of questions from our audience, and I think you guys have obviously had a lot of your questions answered. There are a few that remain. We will start here. This question is for Mr. Winger and Mrs. Graves.
Ms. Graves.
I'm sorry. Mr. Winger and Ms. Graves. The question is, the property tax increase that you recently passed are painful, and you both proposed higher tax hikes. You say this is only the beginning. If you are re-elected, can you tell us tonight how much more you intend to raise taxes next year? I would like for you to be specific and give us a percentage rate that you would consider too much.
I'd consider any tax increase next year too much, but we are faced with the $500,000 that will come out of the electric transfer as the revenues goes down, as we drive your electric bill down. Mr. Old this year, and I've written about this, instituted something, best management practice you would call it, budgeting the general fund budget, not just the capital fund budget for the airport and utility, but actually the current expenditures in the general fund for 5 years. And what we showed ourselves was that essentially we needed this number this year, and you know, I can never say never, but I don't intend for there to be any. I do think though that, to be completely candid, if the stormwater utility goes through, and I can't believe that it will not, that will represent a fee or a tax, if you like, of $3 or $4 a month on a bill, and you know, essentially it's a user fee for the water you put into the lagoon and the damage it causes to the lagoon. So I have to tell you that I would be for that. I'm for saving the lagoon, and I personally am happy to pay it.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, a question from the audience. Mr. Winger, under your leadership,
So, I don't need the answer.
I apologize, it is
I mean,
my
I'm
mistake,
not.
and it's Miss Amelia Graves.
Okay, Ms. Graves, I never said this was only the beginning. In fact, the main focus was to look ahead. How can we hold the line for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years? For example, in 2017, we're going to have a debt series payment of approximately $660,000 drop off out of our general fund, which they can place and to use for other things. One of the things that we could use that money for would be for other benefits, post-employment benefits. That's a trust we could set up, which would start covering some of these liabilities that are going to be on our balance sheet. It would be approximately $300,000+ a year for 27 years, and that would amortize itself. We're also looking at setting a reserve policy, having it built with very specific layers, and out of that reserve policy, if we have excess, we can use it for one-time brick and mortar capital projects, specifically stormwater failures, for example, if we do not put a stormwater utility in place. I never said this is only the beginning, but I did say that at some point we had to address what we had been ignoring for years.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask, there's two that will go to all, and then we'll go to the final question. For our utility bills this month, the fuel surcharge was more than 100% of the usage charge. If the extra charge surpasses my usage, makes me feel like I am paying twice, called double dipping. I would simply ask each member, do you agree or disagree? And
Well, the question is a logical one, but it has also, unfortunately, a logical answer. We will be replacing either December 1st or January 1st the billing system, which is needed to be done for a long time. It's called Cayenta. And it's one, we've gone through all the computer systems, we've gone through looking at the police cars, we looked at the trucks and everything else, and we figured out what we really need to perform the service. Our billing system it's got its problems. It doesn't accept checks. Well, if you have a check you send in out of your bank, we have to hand post the darn thing. It does not accept credit cards, and we're going to fix that. But one of the things that it does do is we have $16 worth of what is really energy charge is in the meter charge, and the bill will be redefined so that in effect it'll have a meter charge, which is the cost of the fixed infrastructure and the maintenance of that infrastructure and so on, and it'll have a fuel charge, which is the cost of power. So your bill will look entirely different, either December 1st or January 1st. It's actually in test right now. So it's a good question, but the fact is the bill's all goofed up, and it has been for a period of time.
Are you saying it's a software issue?
excuse me, ma'am.
Paying twice?
Ma'am,
No.
we're not having questions direct. Ma'am, please.
Well,
We had our questions asked, and we're going to move on. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll answer that question if you don't mind, moderator. Basically,
30
across
seconds.
Florida, all utility bills, as far as I best know, electric bills have two elements. One is the cost of the infrastructure, the power lines, the generation if it exists, and so on, and the other is the cost of either the fuel, or in our case, we purchase 99.9% of our power. And all I'm saying is those two charges are not accurately labeled on the bill, and those two charges are not accurate. In other words, the fuel charge should be higher, the meter charge should be lower. The total will not change. The total will change because if we if we make further changes and if the OUC thing goes through, the bill will go down. But without that, the total would still be the same. So I'm sorry about the bill, but it's taken us, we've worked on it now for a year, fixing it. It's hard to do.
Let's give the opportunity to other candidates to answer the question. Mr. Hetty, if you could. Do you need clarification?
Question?
Yes. It feels like because 100% of the usage charge, or the fuel surcharge is more than 100% of the usage charge, and it feels to me like I'm paying twice and it's called double dipping. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I would agree that a whole lot of people think it's double dipping. I would agree that the way they break the electric bill down is confusing and annoying to most customers. And I would agree that it needs to be fixed.
Ms. Graves?
Ms. Graves, it is a misnomer, and that is one of the things that our rate consultants looked at, is that what has been being labeled as a fuel surcharge, where intrinsically as fuel goes down, you'd think that money would be going down as well, but it's not based on the fuel we're purchasing, it's based on our base power costs. So that's the change you'll be seeing on your bill, is a more accurate label of what that is. But like Mayor Winger said, the amount will not change unless our rates change.
Thank you, Mary Howe. I don't know that it's, I don't know that it's double dipping, moderator, Mr. Tanner. I think it's two separate items. And I think if you combine those two separate items, then it's almost a bigger cheat, because it's kind of like, I'm in insurance, so I can understand if it's on an insurance policy and it says loss of use, for example, it says included. Well, what happens if it's excluded? How much is it costing me? Yes, the cost is included, but that's all it says. So if it's combined into one, I wonder if it would just be one charge, and we won't know what the two charges actually are. To speak more to your question, I have some neighbors who just moved into a 55-plus community. It's a much smaller home. My neighbor said to me, Harry, I never understood the concept of this sell the electric utility until I moved into my new house. My electric bill used to be higher than my fuel surcharge. This month, in my new home, it was $85, and my fuel surcharge was $135. Can you explain that? Well, I could, but it would take a really long time. And the fact is, she knows it's wrong. And let's see, I feel like, I do want to ask one question. I'm going to just put the question out there because I don't have the answer. What happens when a building or a business becomes autonomous? It's now off the grid. Is that person with that business still going to receive a bill for a fuel surcharge? I don't know the answer, but that's something for us all to think about. Thank you.
Laura Moss, and yes, I do believe that it could appear to be double billing, and I think the bills are confusing. Actually, the first time that I attended a Utilities Commission meeting, there was a small change was being made in the billing. This was back last spring, so it's on video. I don't remember exactly what that change was. But I did ask the question at the time, well, should we explain the change to the customer? Should we include some kind of explanation with the invoice? And the response from the city manager was, well, we haven't gotten too many complaints in the past. So I guess just, have his phone ringing off the hook, or I'll propose it again, because I agree. I think the bills are unnecessarily complex and probably confusing to most people.
Okay, we have a single question for Ms. Graves, and then we have two general questions. To be fair, I won't read the commentary that's included in this. I'll just simply read the question. Are you in favor of eliminating prayer at public city council meetings?
I just read an article today where cities around the state of Florida are beginning to do that, because the problem is access to all religions to have equal time in the door. It's currently not included in part of our city council meeting. It happens before the meeting begins. I believe that religion is a very personal and private choice, but I also believe that religion and government do not go hand in hand, and unless we can allow equal opportunity to every religion practiced in this community to come in and be part of that invocation, then I would not have an issue removing it from our meetings.
Okay, this question is directed to all members. Are you willing, let's start, I suppose to be fair, let's go, who would be next? Let's go with Ms. Graves, and then work our way back down the table. Okay. Are you willing to make public the financial loss versus financial benefit of the Vero Beach Airport?
Can you repeat that question?
Are you willing to make public the financial loss?
Cost.
Financial, I'm sorry, my apologies. The financial cost versus financial benefit of the Vero Beach Airport.
That is all public information. So yes, I'm completely in favor. We can have Tammy Bach pull it up and give it to whoever wants it in this audience tomorrow.
Okay. To be fair, let's let everybody answer.
The cost is certainly public knowledge. As far as the benefit, it depends on what kind of magical formulas. I mean, you can plug in different formulas to make it look either as a positive or a negative, but the cost is public knowledge.
I don't have any different answer. The cost is public knowledge, and what Mr. Eddy says is right. I mean, how do you categorize flight safety? How do you categorize Piper aircraft? There's a trailer park there. How do you categorize it all? It's an interesting thing. So I don't have any different answer.
Laura Moss, and yes, I think that any information regarding the airport should be public if it's not already.
Harry Howe. Every aspect of government should be transparent. And I think that the numbers for the airport should be available to everyone, but I guess I can take this opportunity to say that I hope that we can utilize that airport, and I think we're beginning to really become a shining star in our community. We've got some new flights that are going to be coming in and out of here until the end of April, I believe, that go up to Newark, and I think it's a good start.
Okay, if you can keep the microphone, we have one last question. We'll
Sure.
start with you and work our way back down. Thank you guys, your audience you've given us some good questions, but you've been very patient. So here we go with the last question. It has been said many times that FPL cannot find a way to get out of FP&A, or FMPA. Is it fair to add, quote, with the current council?
I believe that that's been proven. Yes, sir. The current council, that's not going to happen. In fact, I don't know how we're struggling with a partial sale now. The contracts are not meant to be endless into perpetuity. We need to get out of them, and I don't think it's going to happen with who's in place today, save maybe a member or two. I think we all know who those people are.
Laura Moss, to date, no, I have not seen any effort by the current council to remove us from the FMPA.
I've spent many, many hours, hundreds of hours, trying to figure a way, both directly with Florida Power and Light and with council, our councils, and so on. I've got to say the odds of getting out of FMPA, other than legislatively, and the only other thing I can think of is Florida Power and Light to buy FMPA, which is very complicated, $2 million worth of debt. I don't think it matters what city council you have. As far as FMPA is concerned, I agree with your earlier comment. Probably the only realistic way is legislation, quite frankly. I don't see any other way. And city council does not control that. It's like we would all stop the railroad. We don't have any control over it.
Do I think it's possible with the current city council? Absolutely not.
If there was a way to get out of these contracts, and not just for the savings that people would receive, I would gladly do it simply because for our community, the electricity has divided us. I mean, truly divided us. It has created disruption between the city and the county working together. It's created disruption in neighborhoods. It's created disruption amongst family and friends. It has been incredibly divisive. If just for no other reason than to bring our community together, I would love to see the power plant sell. Additionally, I would like to see our residents save money. If we have a legislator who's spent 7 years trying to make this happen and it hasn't, so I would hope that you would direct these efforts towards the other people who are running for that office coming up.
Why don't you hold the microphone? Audience, we're a little bit early, so let's wing it and let's just allow the last word to be said by each of these candidates. Give us a final word, 1.5 minutes. Just give us a farewell and why we should vote for you.
You have options. I have sat on council for 2 years. You've seen how I voted. You like it or you don't like it. If I can represent your values and your vision, please vote for me. If it's not in line, then I'm not your person. But I promise that I will serve. I enjoy serving, and it's a privilege and honor to serve this community that raised me.
I think we always have options in elections, and on a national level, we certainly see a very non-traditional candidate, Mr. Trump, running, who says what's on his mind and has few filters, and I think that that's refreshing, and I think that we need someone on city council that will speak the truth out loud, say it without filters, and anybody that knows me knows that I'll do that.
Well, I ask you for your vote, and I told you early on, I'm proudest of my service in the U.S. Army for 2 years, and this is a service. A question that the Press Journal asked, what the salary should be, and the salary is almost nothing, and quite frankly, I joked with them yesterday that, what I do, reorganizing things, you can't pay anybody for wanting to serve the city because you can't afford to pay for it. You have to have people that want to do it. So I want to serve you. We have a happy staff again. Like it or not, we signed a 3-year contract for the first time with the Teamster Union. I don't believe that labor friction is a good thing. We have done a lot with the benefits. I mean, think about it. I mean, we took away their being able to save up vacation and sick pay. We took away their defined benefit, went to defined contribution, and yet they signed a contract. Because it was fair and it had to happen. I mean, we have to do what's right for the employees, but first for you. So I serve you first.
Laura Moss. As I mentioned earlier in the evening, in preparation for this, because I'm the newcomer, it's the first time I've run this race, and it's the first time I've participated in the City Council Tea Party Forum. I watched the 2012 forum, and as I mentioned earlier, 3 of the 4 questions were about utilities, and 1 was about not going forward, 1 was about the long-term cost of maintaining the power plant, and 1 was about the GAI appraisal of the entire Vero Beach power system. And at that time, this is only 3 years ago, evidently this appraisal was $182 million for the entire Vero Beach power system, and FPL at that time offered $179 million. But it's not even the numbers, it's just a shame, I think, that it's gone unresolved this long, and I think it can be resolved, and I would love to do this job. I have a lot of energy, I have a lot of enthusiasm, and I think I bring the proper experience to it, so I'd ask for your vote. Thank you. Laura Moss.
Thank you, Laura. Harry Howe. Y'all, let's not forget that whatever side you're on and whatever team, if you want to, if you will, you want to represent, being on city council, running for city council, being a politician, period, is a difficult job, and I don't care who you are. So I commend these folks for getting themselves out there as I have. I've learned how tough it is. This is my second go at it. But I think more specifically to what I'd like to do is represent the will of the people. The power issue is kind of my favorite point, I guess. I really would like to see us sell that utility, but moreover, there's some streamlining of the regulatory system that needs to be done. Obviously, everybody wants to help the lagoon, and I believe that there is work that can be cut. So I hope that I'll have the opportunity to put that foot forward and make that happen in the next coming years. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, just a word of close. We appreciate all the candidates, and here's our word of encouragement for those present, for those listening on WTTB, and those who may tune in later on television. If you are a non-city resident or if you are a resident, you have the opportunity to make your voice heard by donating to one of these candidates. I'm sure they would appreciate you writing a check. Secondly, you still have the opportunity to volunteer for a campaign. I'm sure they'd love a sign holder. I'm sure they'd love some sort of help in any way. So whether you're non-city resident or a city resident, you can do both of those things. Secondly, if you're a city resident, ask your golf buddies, ask your eating buddies, ask your bridge buddies if they vote. You may be surprised, based on statistics in this county, you would be surprised at how many people are not voting. So it's up to you, the people who are the good people and the voting citizens who take seriously your right to vote, your privilege, but no, it's a right to vote, okay? We should take that as seriously as a right to bear arms or any other right, okay? So ask your friends if they're going out to vote. If they're not, you better give them the business and tell them they need to be. And you can also, you never know what offering a ride for somebody to a precinct would do. So those are things that you guys can do. We encourage all of you to participate in this process, and we have the opportunity in the United States of America to do something that many nations don't. Let's not squander it. Thank you, Indian River Tea Party Board, for the time and effort you've put in. I appreciate that. Audience, how about ending with a nice round of applause for these candidates? Thank each of you. Please drive carefully home. You're dismissed.